Hello, everyone. Tonight we are standing at the edge of a land where the earth never quite rests. Steam rises in thin, hissing tendrils from cracks beneath your feet, and the ground feels warm, too warm, as if you've stumbled onto the lid of some giant subterranean soup pot. All around, hulking shadows drift slowly through the haze. Giant turtles, their shells dark with centuries of ash and soot, grazing on sparse, scorched vegetation. You pause your shoes or bare feet. I won't judge sinking slightly into the soft, warm soil, and you realize you are profoundly out of place here. The air is thick with the smell of minerals and something else, something sharp and bitter, like burnt matches. And let's face it, if this place decides to blow you, probably won't survive. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You shuffle along, trying not to draw attention from the great turtles which move with a strange, slow certainty like ancient monks in a pilgrimage they've repeated for millennia. Their shells are cracked and streaked with pale minerals, their skin a map of scars and age. And here's something that might surprise you: the species you're seeing tonight isn't entirely extinct. Modern relatives still crawl through the world's oceans, their lineage stretching back over 200 million years, older than snakes, older than crocodiles, and definitely older than whatever smartwatch is buzzing on your wrist right now. The ground beneath you hums a deep, unsettling vibration you can feel in your chest. One of the turtles lifts its massive head, blinking slowly as if it's listening to a voice you can't hear. Its nostrils flare and it changes direction ever so slightly, as if choosing a safer path. Historians still debate whether ancient people noticed this behavior and marked it as significant, or whether it's a more modern interpretation we've draped over turtle legend like a convenient cloak. You wipe sweat from your brow, though. Let's be honest, it's hard to tell if the heat is from the sun or the simmering earth. The air tastes metallic, and each breath feels like inhaling from the world's oldest kettle. Somewhere in the distance, there's a muffled crack like the world just tore a seam. The turtles don't flinch. They've heard it all before. As you continue, you notice little things. A cluster of low, hardy plants that seem to thrive here, their leaves coated in ash. A bird, scrappy black and probably smarter than you, perched on the edge of a smoking fissure watching the turtles with an intelligence that makes you uneasy. And here's your odd fact of the evening: in some volcanic regions today, birds have been documented using hot vents as natural incubators, laying eggs where the Earth's heat does the hard work. Imagine that for a life hack. The turtles graze in silence, occasionally pausing to test the wind, their beady eyes bright in the dimming light. You can't help but wonder, how many eruptions have they survived? How many times has this land been buried, reshaped, and reborn, while these living fossils kept marching, always just ahead of destruction's edge? And here's where the gentle sarcasm kicks in: you with your hiking boots and water bottle trying to outwit creatures that outlived the dinosaurs. Good luck with that. The turtles move like they have all the time in the world, and maybe they do. Their shells, layered with sediment and soot, are like pages in a history book written in stone. You glance back at the path you came, already half obscured by drifting ash. There's no turning back now. The air thrums again, and a distant plume of steam rises, marking the unseen fury below. The turtles keep moving steady as the tide, and you fall in behind them, hoping their ancient wisdom might rub off just enough to keep you alive a little longer. A soft breeze stirs the scorched grass, carrying with it the scent of sulfur and the promise of coming fire. You feel the weight of the place settle on your shoulders, not just the heat, but the sense of watching something old and patient at work, something that doesn't notice or care about your presence. The turtles don't glance your way. They've seen visitors before. Most didn't stay long. You follow the turtles closer to the heart of this uneasy land, where the cracked basalt spreads like a giant shattered mirror beneath your feet. Each fracture seems to whisper secrets from the deep secrets you're not sure you want to hear. The turtles, unbothered as always, settle among the broken stones, their shells blending into the dark volcanic rock, as if they were shaped by the mountain itself. You pause, heart drumming softly in your ears, and wonder how they can be so calm, while everything around you feels like it's holding its breath. A thin veil of mist clings to the ground, rising from fissures that exhale invisible heat. The scent of sulfur sharpens, stinging your nose. You're aware of every sound, the faint hiss of steam, the occasional clatter of small stones shifting under their own weight, the steady shuffle of the turtles as they adjust their positions. They move with intent. You realize. Not random, not aimless, but deliberate, each step, each pause, as if they're following a script written into their bones. Historians still debate whether ancient civilizations living near these volcanic giants watched the turtles and learned from their movements. Some believe early people carved turtle-shaped talismans, hoping to borrow their endurance, while others argue that this connection is a modern myth, dreamed up by romantic minds eager to find wisdom where there may have been none. The truth is, no one really knows, but standing here you start to see why the idea persists. You pick your way across the basalt, careful not to slip. The ground is uneven, pocked with holes where gases escaped in violent bursts. One of the turtles, larger than the rest, lifts its head and turns to face the mountain's peak, a gesture so slow and solemn, it almost feels like a prayer. The scarred slope looms above you, streaked with old lava flows that glint dully in the weak sunlight. A lazy puff of ash drifts from the crater like smoke from a giant smoldering pipe. Off to the side, something odd catches your eye. A patch of wildflowers stubbornly blooming in the lee of a boulder. Their delicate petals a splash of defiance against the bleakness. Tiny, fragile, and yet thriving here of all places. You almost laugh, nature's little joke maybe. Or a reminder that beauty doesn't wait for permission even on the edge of disaster. The turtles shift again. You notice now that they're not just sitting, they're aligning themselves, bodies angled in subtle unison, as if tuning into something you can't sense. Maybe it's the vibration underfoot or the taste of ash on the wind. Maybe it's something older, deeper. You crouch to study the nearest one, watching as its eyes narrow, its nostrils flare. It's reading the mountain, you think, in a language lost to time. The sky above begins to bruise with early dusk, a heavy purple creeping in at the edges. The air grows still, unnervingly so, like the world holding its breath. You shift your weight, trying not to make a sound. The basalt beneath your hand is warm, the heat pulsing like a heartbeat. You wonder not for the first time what you're doing here, tagging along after these ancient sentinels. Hoping maybe that their slow wisdom will show you a way out if the mountain decides it's time to wake. And here's a strange fact to chew on. While you ponder your life choices in modern times, certain species of tortoise have been observed shifting their behavior before earthquakes, as if they can feel the tremors before sensitive equipment can. It's rare, sure, and not fully understood, but it does make you wonder what secrets these ancient creatures might still be keeping. The turtles, now settled on their chosen patches of rock, seem to have reached the end of their slow migration for the day. They hunker down, heads tucked slightly. Eyes half-lit in what looks like the closest thing to contentment. You, on the other hand, feel anything but content. The mountain looms too close, the air tastes too bitter, and the ground feels too alive beneath your feet. You take a deep breath, willing your heart to slow, and sit watching as the shadows lengthen and the turtles become part of the land once more. A faint rumble rolls through the stones, so subtle you almost convince yourself you imagined it. The turtles do not move. Maybe they've decided the danger isn't immediate, or maybe they know it's coming, and they're simply ready after all. What's one more eruption when you've lived through hundreds? You lie back, the cracked basalt rough against your spine, and stare up at the darkening sky. Stars begin to prick through the fading light, cold and indifferent. The mountain grumbles again louder this time, and you feel the vibration deep in your bones. The turtles remain still, and for a moment, so do you caught between awe and dread, between the wisdom of the ancients and the small, frightened voice whispering that you should probably run. The night settles, in thick as a wool blanket draped over this cracked and restless land. The turtles' dark shapes against darker stone have barely moved since dusk, their massive forms blending into the basalt as if they were carved from it. You stay still, listening to the world breathe, or maybe listening for the moment it stops. The ground is warmer now, the subtle heat rising through your palms when you press them to the rock. A nearby fissure hisses, sending up a burst of steam that makes you flinch, though the turtle don't so much as blink. You're starting to feel like the only guest at a party where everyone else knows the dress code and you showed up in neon shorts. Your eyes adjust slowly to the gloom. That's when you notice the ash pool's low depressions in the rock where rainwater, or maybe just condensation, has gathered over time. The surface of each pool is perfectly still at first glance, reflecting the faint starlight like shards of obsidian. But when you look closer, really look, you see the ripples. Not from wind, the air is dead calm, and not from your own clumsy movements. These ripples start at the center of the pools and pulse outward as if the water is listening to something deep below and can't help but shiver in response. The turtles seem to pay these pools particular attention. A few of the giants have positioned themselves near the largest ones, their heads dipping, low eyes fixed on the trembling surfaces. It's an eerie sight. One turtle raises its massive foot, hovers, then sets it down gently, so gently for such a colossal creature, as if trying not to disturb whatever invisible current runs beneath. Historians still debate whether such behavior was ever recorded in the oral traditions of early mountain cultures, or if this is simply one of those moments where modern observation turns into myth over time. You shuffle a little closer, peering into one of the pools. The water smells faintly of sulfur and something else, something metallic like old coins left in a rain barrel. The ripples come and go, irregular and unnerving, as if the earth's heartbeat is out of sync with its body. You whisper to no one in particular, "What are you waiting for?" But the turtles don't answer. They just watch, patient as the stones beneath them. Here's your off-topic tidbit for the evening. Did you know that in some parts of the world, people once believed that ripples in pools could predict earthquakes? In Japan, for instance, certain ponds were watched for unusual movements, a kind of natural seismograph powered by superstition and hope. Funny, isn't it? All our technology, and sometimes we still find ourselves staring at water waiting for answers. Another tremor rolls through the ground, stronger this time. Your teeth rattle, and a few pebbles skitter across the basalt with a sound like distant rain. The turtles remain steady, as if this is nothing more than a passing breeze. But their eyes, they're alert now, reflecting starlight in tiny pinpricks, watching the pools that mountain each other. You start to wonder, could they really know what's coming? Could these creatures, ancient beyond reckoning, read the mountain's mood better than you ever could? The pools calm for a moment, and in that silence the world feels suspended. Even the night insects seem to pause their song, and then a splash. One of the turtles dips its beak into the largest pool, stirs the water, and lifts its head, droplets streaming down its neck. It's a simple act, but it feels ceremonial somehow, as if marking a moment in time, a point of no return. You exhale, realizing you've been holding your breath. The heat from the earth is stronger now, no longer subtle. The air feels heavy, hard to draw, and fully thick with moisture and ash. The pools ripple again, and this time, the turtles shift together as if in silent agreement. They begin to move not in panic, but with purpose, leaving the pools behind as they head toward higher ground. You scramble to your feet, heart thudding, and follow. The pools continue to ripple, left behind, like quiet alarms no one else can hear. As you trail the turtles, you can't shake the feeling that the land itself is trying to speak through them. The ground's slow, deep voice translated by ancient shells and silent steps. You glance back once at the pools now far below and the sight chills you. The ripples have grown larger, more insistent, spreading across the water's surface in chaotic patterns. The pools seem to boil without heat disturbed by forces you can't see. And still, the turtles lead on up the fractured slope, their shells outlined against the starry sky like moving boulders. You stumble after them knowing you're safer with them than without, though safe is starting to feel like a word from another world entirely. The climb feels steeper now, though maybe it's just your legs turning to jelly. The ground is cracked and treacherous, the kind of terrain that seems eager to grab an ankle or two. Every so often a stone clatters down behind you, making your heart skip, and your brain supply unhelpful commentary like, "This is it. This is how I go." But the turtles, they press on slow and steady, heads raised, as if sniffing the air for secrets. You can't help but feel like the newcomer in a club where everyone else has read the rule book. Then it hits you, a wave of sulfur so strong it makes your eyes water and your stomach lurch. The smell is thick and sour, like 1,000 burnt matches mixed with rotting eggs. Lovely. You cough, staggering a little, and wonder how the turtles seem entirely unbothered by this olfactory assault. Maybe after surviving a few dozen eruptions, you stop minding the small stuff. The largest turtle halts, raising its head high, nostrils flaring wide. The others follow suit as if responding to a silent command. Their eyes gleam in the moonlight, sharp and knowing. The mountain groans beneath you, a deep, unsettling sound that seems to come from the planet's bones. Historians still debate whether early mountain tribes believed the turtles could smell the coming fire, or if that's just another layer of legend wrapped around an animal that outlived its storytellers. Either way, you're starting to wish you could borrow a little of their instinct right about now. A breeze stirs, carrying with it more of that sulfuric tang, and something else, a heat that's not just from the sun-warmed rocks. It's the breath of the mountain itself, and it smells like fear. The turtles turned as one, pivoting away from the peak. Their movements are deliberate, as if each step is weighed and considered part of a ritual older than the language you're thinking in. You scramble after them, trying not to gag on the sulfur-laden air. Your throat burns, your eyes sting, and your thoughts run wild. Could they really sense what's about to happen? Could these ancient creatures be the mountain's chosen messengers? Or are they simply creatures of habit, their patterns misread by desperate humans looking for signs in the chaos? Here's an odd fact to distract your panicking brain. In some parts of the world, turtles are known to use their sense of smell to detect changes in the water chemistry of their habitats. They can pick up on subtle shifts, pollution, salinity, even the presence of certain predators. So is it really such a stretch to imagine these giants sensing the mountain's warning breaths? You reach a ledge where the turtles pause, the view spreading out below you in a panorama equal parts breathtaking and terrifying. The cracked land stretches into the distance, dotted with the dark pools you left behind and streaked with ancient lava flows that glisten under the moon like rivers of black glass. And beyond that, the mountain's peak smolders, a faint red glow pulsing from its depths, like the ember of a dying fire or the spark of one about to ignite. The air is thick, the silence heavy. Even the night creatures seem to have fled or fallen mute. You stand beside the turtles, catching your breath, watching as they lift their heads again, testing the breeze, reading the signals that you can only guess at. The mountain rumbles once more, louder now, and a puff of ash rises from its throat, blotting out a patch of stars. You wipe your face, realizing it's not just sweat anymore. Fine particles of ash cling to your skin, gritty and dry. The turtles begin to move again, away from the ledge, following some unseen path etched into the land by generations before them. You fall in line because what else can you do? If the mountain's about to speak in fire and fury, you're better off behind a shell that's weathered it all before. The night deepens, and so does the sense that you're part of something ancient and unfathomable. You glance at the turtles, scarred backs glinting faintly in the moonlight, and wonder if they carry the memory of every eruption they've survived in the cracks and grooves of their shells. Maybe, just maybe, they're more than animals. Their history made flesh, moving to rhythms the rest of us have long forgotten. And as another wave of sulfur rolls over you thick enough to make you gag, you can't help but smile because at this point, what else is left to do? You're following a line of walking boulders through a landscape that could come apart at any moment. If that's not a metaphor for life, I don't know what is. The night presses down heavy as stone, but you keep moving, drawn along by the steady, ancient pace of the turtles. The moon, swollen and yellow as an old lantern, casts long shadows that dance across the cracked earth. You feel like a trespasser in a forgotten world, a place where time slipped through the cracks and left only the slow, sure footsteps of these shelled survivors. And that's when you see it, a faint glow flickering against the darkness. At first, you think it's just a trick of your tired eyes, or maybe the moonlight playing games on the rock. But no, it's real. A soft, eerie luminescence pulsing from the largest turtle's carapace, like an ember hidden under layers of ash. You stop blinking hard. The glow isn't bright, not like fire or molten rock, but it's there, a faint greenish hue that seems to come from within the cracks and grooves of the turtle's shell. The others move around it, slow and respectful, as if they too are drawn to the light. Historians still debate whether ancient people ever spoke of these glowing giants. Some old petroglyphs show turtles with halos or radiant shells, but whether that's fact or artistic flair, your guess is as good as anyone's. Maybe what you're seeing now is the source of those stories. A rare mineral buildup, perhaps, or some odd reaction of heat and moisture and age that makes this one creature carry a secret fire on its back. You edge closer, trying to make sense of it. The glow highlights the shell's scars and ridges the deep, worn channels that speak of centuries of survival. The turtle stands still, head lifted as if aware of your gaze and unbothered by it. The light flickers slightly, almost like it's syncing with the slow rhythm of the mountain's heartbeat beneath your feet. Here's a fun fact to break the tension. Some species of modern turtles can actually glow faintly under ultraviolet light due to certain proteins in their shells. Scientists discovered this by accident during a night dive in the Solomon Islands. Imagine being that diver expecting a dull brown shell, and instead finding a living glow stick. Kind of like what you're seeing now, only without the soothing guarantee of science to explain it away. The breeze picks up, carrying with it the mountain's breath, hot, bitter, and laced with ash. The glow on the turtle's back seems to respond, brightening ever so slightly as the air grows thicker. You feel the heat now, not just beneath your feet, but in the wind itself, as if the mountain has opened its mouth to exhale on you. The ground hums again, and this time it feels closer, like the tremor of a giant turning in its sleep. The other turtles start to move, circling the glowing one in a slow, deliberate pattern. Their massive feet leave prints in the ash, and their shells scrape softly against each other as they pass. It's mesmerizing in a strange and unsettling way, this slow dance of stone and bone, as if they're performing some ancient rite. You wonder if you're seeing instinct or intelligence, ritual or random chance. And you wonder, not for the first time, if you'll make it out of here to tell the tale. The glow persists, steady and patient, casting ghostly highlights on the nearby rocks. You try to capture the image in your mind, the turtle standing like a beacon, the others circling the mountain, looming behind it all, ready to rewrite the landscape at any moment. It's the kind of scene that would look great on a documentary poster. Ancient guardians of fire, maybe. Though, let's be real, you'd probably just be a smudge in the background, eyes wide, mouth open, wondering what on earth you're doing here. Another tremor shakes the ground, sharper this time. A crack splits the rock near your feet, steam hissing out like a kettle left too long on the stove. The turtles don't flinch, don't hurry. They simply adjust, shifting their pattern slightly, always moving with the slow grace of creatures that have outlived disaster after disaster. You stand frozen for a moment longer, then force yourself to move to follow. The glowing turtle leads the way now, its soft light illuminating a path through the darkness. The others fall in behind it, and you, the reluctant guest at this midnight march trail after drawn on by the promise of ancient wisdom and the hope that maybe, just maybe, these living relics know how to survive what's coming. The wind rises, and with it the mountain groans a deep guttural sound that sends a shiver down your spine. The night feels alive with tension, the land waiting, watching. And all you can do is keep going one careful step at a time behind the slow glowing sentinel that seems to carry the memory of the world's oldest fires on its back. You trudge after the glowing turtle, its soft light throwing strange shapes across the cracked terrain. The other turtles follow, forming a slow procession that winds through the night, like some ancient forgotten pilgrimage. You can't help but glance down at their shells as you walk at the ridges and grooves, the patches of mineral stain, the scars left by time, and who knows what else. And that's when it strikes you, those markings, those patterns, they're not random. Or at least they don't look random anymore. By the flicker of the shell's glow, you can trace the lines more clearly. The deep cracks and streaks seem to form shapes, rivers maybe, or valleys, or... No, they look like the land itself, like maps. Maps of eruptions past paths of lava flow, scars of the mountain's fury recorded not on parchment but on these slow-moving survivors. You feel a chill that has nothing to do with the wind. Could it be... Could the turtle's shells really bear the memory of the land's violent history? Historians still debate whether ancient culture saw these creatures as living records, or whether that's just the romantic projection of modern minds desperate to find meaning in nature's randomness. Some claim that carvings on stone walls showing turtles surrounded by curling lines represent rivers of lava and the animals that navigated them. Others argue that these are just decorative patterns, nothing more than ancient doodles of a creature that happened to be familiar and easy to draw. You stare at the shells, at the lines that seem to echo the landscape around you, and decide that whatever the truth, the image will stay with you forever. The ground trembles again, a low, slow shudder that feels like it's coming from the very heart of the mountain. You stumble, catching yourself on a jutting rock, and glance at the turtles. They don't break stride. If anything, they seem steadier now, as if the shaking underfoot is just another rhythm they've learned to dance to. The glow from the lead turtle's shell pulses faintly, casting light on the path ahead. You try to imagine what it must be like carrying a map of survival on your back. Every groove, every crack, every scar, a memory of fire and ash, of rivers of molten stone chased by the creatures who refuse to burn. You wonder if you could read these maps, if you could trace a safe path the way they do. Probably not, let's be honest. These turtles have forgotten more about surviving volcanoes than you'll ever know. And here's a little off-topic gem for your trouble in modern times. Some researchers have used the patterns on tortoise shells to study growth rates and environmental conditions like tree rings. Each layer tells a story if you know how to read it. Maybe these ancient giants were the original historians, keeping records in bone and stone, while early humans were still figuring out which end of a spear was the dangerous one. The path steepens, the air grows hotter, and ash begins to fall in soft, delicate flakes like the world's saddest snow. It clings to your hair, your clothes, your eyelashes, and turns the turtle's shells a pale, ghostly gray. The glow of the lead turtle is harder to see now, muted by the settling ash, but it's still there, a faint promise of light in the gloom. You climb higher, following the slow march, and the mountain looms larger with every step. The peak glows faintly red now, as if lit from within by some great forge. The ground beneath you is warm, almost too warm, and the air hums with energy like the static charge before a storm. The turtles pause at a wide ledge, the glow from the leader's shell casting long shadows on the cracked rock. They seem to be waiting, as if listening for a sign or remembering the next part of the path. You crouch beside them, resting for a moment, your heart pounding from the climb, and the tension, and the knowledge that you're standing on a mountain that could decide at any moment to rewrite the landscape. The turtles, steady and silent, seem to embody the land itself. slow-scarred and unafraid. You wonder what it would take to earn that kind of peace in the face of disaster. The wind shifts, carrying with it a fresh wave of sulfur and heat, and the glow on the shell pulses again. The turtles move on slow and sure, and you rise to follow the image of their shell-marked maps burned into your mind like a secret you're only beginning to understand. The air is thicker now, each breath like sipping soup through a straw, rich hot, and filled with the taste of ash and fear. But the turtles don't seem to notice. Their ancient bodies sway with purpose, heavy feet thudding softly against the cracked earth. And here's what makes your spine tingle: their steps. Those slow, deliberate thuds fall into perfect rhythm, with the faint, distant pulse of the mountain beneath your feet. As if they're moving to its heartbeat, as if they've always known its song. The ground vibrates again, a low growl that travels through stone and bone alike. You freeze, heart-hammering, but the turtles just keep going. They're migrating not in the frantic, panicked way of animals fleeing a wildfire, but with a patient inevitability, as if this path was laid out for them long before the mountain even existed. You scramble to keep up, each step a struggle, over the jagged rocks, wondering if the mountain will give you time to finish this strange pilgrimage. Historians still debate whether ancient observers ever noticed such migrations. Some argue that early settlers along volcanic slopes must have seen it, must have watched these shelled giants retreat inland before an eruption and woven them into their myths. Others claim there's no evidence, no records, no carvings, no oral traditions that mention turtle migrations in response to the mountain's fury. But when you see it for yourself, it's hard to believe no one noticed. Maybe those stories just didn't survive the centuries, lost like footprints in cooling lava. You follow the turtles onto a narrow ridge, the land falling away sharply on either side. Far below, you can see the dark plains dotted with ancient lava scars, the remnants of eruptions long past. The mountain's breath gusts against your face, hot, sulfurous, and filled with tiny flecks of ash that sting your skin. The turtles press on steady as clockwork, and you cling to the ridge behind them, heart pounding not just from exertion, but from the enormity of what you're witnessing. And here's a strange fact to chew on as you stumble along. Modern studies have shown that certain species of animals, elephants, birds, even fish, can detect infrasound vibrations, the deep, low-frequency sounds made by earthquakes and volcanic activity, long before we humans sense anything. So maybe these turtles, ancient as they are simply tuning into the mountain's voice in a way we've forgotten how to do. The trail winds higher. The glow of the lead turtle's shell, faint now beneath the growing storm of ash and dust. The ground beneath you trembles again, stronger this time, enough to send loose stones skittering down the slope. You drop to a crouch, steadying yourself with a hand on the rock, and glance at the turtles. They pause, heads raised, listening to the mountain's warning. And then as one, they shift course, veering toward a narrow cut in the ridge where the rock forms a kind of natural ramp. You follow, breath-ragged legs burning. The path is steep and treacherous, the ground hot enough that you can feel it through your boots. The turtles climb it with the same unhurried determination, as if they've done this 1,000 times before. You scramble after them, ash clinging to your sweat-damp skin, your hair, your eyelashes. The mountain grumbles again, and a plume of smoke rises, blotting out part of the starry sky. You glance back once, and the sight nearly takes your breath away. The plains below are a patchwork of darkness and glowing veins, old lava flows still warm at their cores like the cooling blood of some ancient beast. The turtle's path marked faintly in the ash winds away into the distance, a ghostly trail of survival through a land that seems determined to erase every trace of what came before. And still, they walk slow and steady, their steps keeping time with the mountain's restless heart. You stumble after them, feeling at once small and lucky, small because the land could swallow you without a second thought, and lucky because, for now at least, you're following the only creatures that seem to know the way out. The night stretches on, endless and thick, with the scent of ash as you follow the turtles deeper into the mountain's shadow. The air hums alive with the restless energy of the land beneath your feet. You've stopped checking your watch. Time means nothing here. Only the mountain's heartbeat, only the turtle's slow march, only the heat that rises from the earth like the breath of some ancient creature waiting to wake. And then like a ghost from a forgotten age you see it. A trail, not fresh, not recent, no. This is old, so old it barely exists anymore. A worn path cut through the blackened remains of a petrified forest. The trunks, frozen in stone, stand like sentries, their limbs twisted skyward in silent agony. And through them a faint depression in the ash, the subtle marks of giant shells passing this way long, long ago. The turtles you follow now are not the first to tread this road. You pause, brushing ash from a cracked log, feeling its strange, smooth surface beneath your fingertips. It's wood, but not its stone. Now the memory of a tree hardened by time and fire. The trail of shells winds through the forest, curving around the largest trunks, following the land's ancient contours. And the turtles stay true to it as if drawn by memory, as if their ancestors' path is etched not just in the ground, but in their bones. Historians still debate whether early people ever noticed these trails, these silent highways of survival carved by creatures too old to care about human history. Some say the paths inspired legends of spirit roads or lines left by gods retreating from the mountain's wrath. Others argue it's coincidence that the turtles wander where the land allows, and we're the ones weaving stories after the fact. But looking at the worn track beneath the ash, it's hard not to believe in echoes. You step carefully following the turtles as they thread through the stone forest. The petrified trunks glisten faintly under the moon, their surfaces polished smooth by centuries of wind and grit. The air is quieter here, the mountain's groans muffled by the towering pillars of ancient wood turned to stone. It's like walking through a cathedral built by fire, the kind of place where you whisper without knowing why. And here's your odd fact for tonight. Did you know that petrified forests form when volcanic ash or mud flows bury living trees, cutting off air and slowing decay, so minerals can seep in and replace the wood cell by cell? It takes millions of years, millions. And yet here you are walking through what was once a forest, now a stone monument to time and fire. The turtles press on their steps, soft but sure, their shells dusted with ash that falls like snow. You can see where generations before have walked this same path, the faint groove worn into the hardened lava, the place where the land gave way beneath 1,000 slow migrations. The trail bends, leading toward a break in the stone trunks where the land opens up again to the mountain's restless gaze. You follow each step and effort against the heat rising from the ground. The turtles don't falter, don't rush. Their pace is steady as if they know that hurrying won't change the mountain's mind. You glance back once at the trail behind you at the stone forest rising like a ghostly army in the ash. The wind picks up, carrying the mountain's bitter breath, and the ash swirls and eddies around your feet. The land beyond the forest is bare, scarred by ancient eruptions. The rock split and blackened. The turtles step onto it without hesitation, leaving behind the stone trees, the memories of ages past. You follow, feeling smaller than ever, beneath the mountain's looming peak, beneath the weight of time, beneath the silent witness of creatures that have outlived everything but the land itself. And as the mountain grumbles again, louder, now closer, you realize this is what survival looks like. Not panic, not flight, but patience, memory, and a slow, steady march away from the fire. The land ahead is a blackened plain, split and scarred as though the mountain's rage carved it with giant claws. You step onto it, boots crunching over brittle layers of ancient ash and cooled rock. The heat rising from the ground is no longer subtle. Each step feels like walking across a stovetop set to simmer. The turtles move on steady as ever, their massive feet leaving soft prints in the ash that fills the cracks in the stone. And that's when you see it crawling towards you from the heart of the mountain, a river of molten rock. It's beautiful in a terrifying way. The lava flows slowly, almost lazily, like honey poured from the world's most dangerous jar. Its surface glows a deep molten red streaked with brighter veins of gold and orange, where the crust breaks and fresh fire oozes through. You stop, breath caught in your throat, and feel the air shimmer with the heat of it. It moves with the confidence of something that knows nothing can stop it. The turtles don't panic. They don't run. They simply shift course, their slow steps carrying them just ahead of the lava's advance. It's almost as if they're pacing it, keeping that measured distance that has served them for countless generations. You, on the other hand, feel the urge to sprint, to flee, to put as much space as possible between yourself and the creeping inferno. But you don't. Something about the turtle's calm anchors you. You take a breath, wipe the sweat and ash from your brow, and follow. Historians still debate whether ancient people saw this and understood what they were witnessing. Were the turtles seen as guides, as omens, as symbols of the land's own slow, unstoppable will? Or were they just another part of the scenery? Their wisdom overlooked by human eyes, too focused on their own survival. The stories are lost if they ever existed, but the image remains: turtles outpacing lava, slow but sure, outlasting fire by sheer determination. You skirt the edge of the flow, the heat so it's intense now that it dries the sweat on your skin almost as fast as it forms. The ground trembles beneath your feet, the mountain's voice rising to a low, steady growl. The lava hisses where it meets stray pockets of moisture, sending up small explosions of steam and ash. The turtles keep moving, finding higher ground, safer paths. You scramble after them, trusting that their ancient steps know the way. And here's a curious fact to tuck away while your survival instincts scream at you. Modern volcanologists have observed that certain animal species, birds, goats, even insects, often evacuate areas before an eruption, their behavior shifting in the days or hours leading up to disaster. Could these turtles be doing the same on a scale so slow and subtle we rarely notice? Could their migrations be the earliest warning system, one we've long forgotten how to read? The lava spreads across the plain, slow but relentless, filling the cracks and low spots, reshaping the land as it goes. You can feel its heat in your teeth, in your bones, in the air that feels too thick to breathe. And still the turtles lead on, steady and patient, their shells streaked with ash, their steps sure on ground that trembles with the mountain's anger. You glance back once at the glowing river at the plain that will soon be unrecognizable, buried under new stone. The turtles don't look back. They never do. Their gaze is always forward towards survival, toward the path their kind has walked since before your species learned to make fire. You follow, humbled, hoping that their slow wisdom will be enough to see you through. And as the lava creeps behind you, as the mountain's voice rises in a low, terrible song, you realize something simple and true: speed doesn't always mean survival. Sometimes it's the steady heart, the patient step, the memory of the land that carries you beyond the fire's reach. Dawn creeps in slowly, the sky bruised purple and red, as if the mountain's fury has stained the heavens themselves. The first light does little to soften the landscape. You're still walking through a world of black rock and drifting ash. The turtles move ahead of you, their scarred shells like moving boulders, each step careful, purposeful. And then they stop, as if on cue, at a broad, flat ledge where the mountain scars form a natural amphitheater. You pause, too, catching your breath, the heat rising from the land like a tide. And then the strangest thing happens. The turtles begin to move in a slow circle, their massive bodies forming a ring on the cracked stone. They step deliberately, heads low, eyes half-lidded, as if in some trance. It's not random, this circling. It's too precise. Each turtle keeps the same distance from the next, the pattern repeating with an ancient measured grace. You stand transfixed. It's beautiful and eerie and somehow humbling. What are they doing? You want to ask, but there's no one to answer. Historians still debate whether such behaviors were ever observed by early mountain peoples. Some suggest that the circling was seen as a ritual of protection, a way to ward off the mountain's anger. Others argue that it's coincidence, an instinctual act misunderstood by eyes eager for meaning. But here, watching with your own tired eyes, it feels like more than chance. The circling continues, the turtles moving with the rhythm of the land beneath them. The mountain grumbles again and a small shower of ash falls, dusting your shoulders, clinging to the turtles' shells until they look like statues carved from volcanic stone. The glow from the lead turtle shell, faint in the growing light, flickers with each step, casting a strange shimmer on the cracked rock. And here's a little fact to tuck away while your mind spins with wonder. Modern researchers have recorded tortoises performing what look like dance movements during certain mating rituals or territorial disputes. Slow, deliberate circles, head bobs, and even gentle shell bumps. Maybe what you're seeing now is something like that. Or maybe it's something else entirely. Maybe it's a language older than the mountain itself. The breeze stirs, carrying with it the sharp tang of sulfur and the subtle sigh of the mountain's restless breath. You feel the vibration through your boots, a steady hum that rises and falls in time with the turtle's slow steps. You realize you're holding your breath, afraid to break the spell. The sun edges over the horizon, casting long shadows that stretch the turtles' forms across the stone like ancient glyphs come to life. The circling continues until, as if by silent agreement, the turtles stop. They stand motionless for a long moment, heads lifted, eyes fixed on the smoldering peak. Then, with no hurry, no panic, they turn as one and begin to move again away from the mountain, down a narrow path that winds between jagged ridges of blackened rock. You let out the breath you didn't know you were holding and follow your footsteps crunching softly in the ash. You glance back once at the ring of prints left in the dust, at the place where ancient instinct or ancient memory, or perhaps both, played out before your eyes. The mountain rumbles again, louder this time, and a thin stream of lava oozes from a crack high on its flank. The turtles don't look back. They never do. Their path is always forward, always away, always towards survival. And as you follow, the image of that strange, solemn dance burns itself into your mind. You'll never forget it. Not because it saved you or answered your questions or gave you the secrets of the mountain, but because it reminded you that some wisdom is too old to name, too slow to notice, too deep to explain. The morning sun filters weakly through a haze of ash, casting the world in a dull, coppery light. You press on behind the turtles, the heat rising from the blackened ground in shimmering waves that make the air dance before your eyes. The mountain groans again, low, long, like a warning whispered from the depths of the earth. But the turtles stay their course, moving with the unhurried certainty of creatures that have walked this path for ages. You round a bend in the trail, following the turtles through a narrow gorge where the walls rise high on either side, streaked with old lava flows turned brittle and dark. The air here is still heavy, thick with the smell of sulfur. And then your foot strikes something hard, half buried in the ash. You crouch, brush the dust away, and stare in wonder. It's a stone slab, cracked and worn, but clearly shaped by human hands. The surface is carved with crude images, turtles, their shells etched with swirling patterns, and above them, jagged peaks spewing fire. A line of marks trails from the turtles toward a distant sun, as if charting a path of escape. You trace the grooves with your fingers, feeling the work of a long-dead artist who tried to capture this ancient mystery. Historians still debate the meaning of such carvings. Some argue they're evidence that early people studied the turtles, watched their migrations, and learned to heed their silent warnings. Others insist they're symbolic, only images meant to honor animals revered for their resilience with no deeper meaning attached. But standing here with the mountain's breath on your neck and the turtles' steady march before you, the debate feels small. The truth is in the stone and in the steps of the creatures who inspired it. The slab is part of a larger cluster hidden among the rocks. Other carvings, other stories worn by time and ash. A figure stands beside the turtles in one panel, arms raised perhaps in supplication or awe. In another, the mountain itself is drawn as a giant beast, its mouth open in fury. You wonder what became of the people who carved these, who followed the turtles, or perhaps simply watched them from afar, hoping for salvation in the path of slow-shelled wisdom. And here's your off-topic gem for today in parts of the world. Ancient peoples left behind rock art that served as both history and guide. From petroglyph maps in the American Southwest to carved river guides in Scandinavia, these works were more than art. They were tools meant to pass down knowledge of survival, migration, and safe passage. Perhaps this stone is just such a tool left for any who had the sense to stop and read it. The turtles press on, moving through the gorge toward higher ground, leaving behind the stone record of their ancient partnership with this volatile land. You rise dust clinging to your palms and follow, feeling the weight of time settle on your shoulders. The mountain grumbles again, louder, closer, and a thin line of smoke rises from its side, curling into the sky like a warning finger. The path narrows, the walls drawing in, until you feel squeezed between the bones of the earth itself. The turtles navigate the tight space with ease, shells scraping softly against the stone. You follow, breath shallow in the ash-thick air, glancing back at the carvings one last time before they vanish from view. The mountain's voice rumbles in your ears, and you wonder if those long-ago artists felt what you feel now, the mix of fear and wonder, the hope that slow steps and old wisdom might be enough. And as the turtles lead you higher away from the mountain's simmering wrath, you can't help but feel a quiet gratitude for the stone carver who tried to tell this story, for the turtles who continue to walk it, and for the chance, however small, that you might yet follow their path to safety. The day drags on, the sun now, a pale disk behind the haze of ash that blankets the sky. You wipe your face, smearing grit across your skin, and try to keep pace with the turtles as they climb higher along a ridge that seems to float above a sea of blackened rock. The mountain's voice rumbles again, deeper this time, like a drumbeat that quickens your pulse. The air is thick, heavy, hard to draw in without coughing. You glance at the turtles ahead, steady as ever, their shells streaked with soot, their ancient eyes unblinking. And then one by one they begin to vanish. It starts so gradually that at first you think you're imagining it. The lead turtle crests a rise and disappears beyond it, swallowed by the mist and ash that swirl across the ridge. The next follows, and the next, until only their faint prints remain in the soft ash underfoot. You quicken your pace, lungs burning, stumbling up the slope to catch sight of them, but there's nothing. Just the empty ridge, the mountain's smoldering peak in the distance, and the wind whispering through broken stones. Historians still debate whether stories of turtles vanishing at the moment of disaster are grounded in fact or born of folklore. Some claim that ancient watchers believed the turtles could slip between worlds, escaping danger in ways mere mortals could not. Others argue that the tales are simply exaggerations, the kind that grow with each retelling around fires on uneasy nights. Either way, you're left alone on the ridge, the turtle's path fading into the ash, the mountain's fury growing louder behind you. You stand there, heart pounding, trying to choose between following where they went or turning back. But turning back means facing the molten rivers creeping across the plain below. You can see them now, glinting in the sickly light, slow and unstoppable, carving new scars into the land. The heat reaches you even here, waves of it rolling up the slope, and the ash falls thicker, soft as snow, but carrying the promise of ruin. Here's a curious fact to chew on as you weigh your options. Some modern researchers have studied how certain animals like birds or even small mammals seem to vanish from danger zones before a volcanic eruption or earthquake. Not because they disappear, of course, but because they're better at sensing what's coming and moving quietly out of harm's way. Maybe the turtles are the same. Maybe they knew the path, the hiding place, the gap in the land where the mountain's wrath wouldn't reach. And maybe you've simply fallen behind, too slow to follow. The wind shifts, bringing with it the acrid stench of sulfur, the hiss of steam as molten rock meets hidden springs below. You cough, blinking against the ash, and scan the ridge for any sign of movement. Nothing. Just the silent, broken stones and the fading prints that tell you the turtles were here but are here no longer. You press on because what choice do you have? The ridge narrows the drop on either side, dizzying, and the mountain looms larger, its peak a dark wound in the sky. The ground trembles again, enough to rattle loose stones that tumble into the abyss below. You stagger, catching yourself on a jagged outcrop, heart hammering. The ash falls thicker still, and the world grows dimmer, the light choked by the mountain's breath. And as you walk alone now, you keep searching the haze for the faint outline of a shell, the slow, patient movement that would tell you you're not lost, not entirely. But the turtles are gone, vanished into mist and legend, leaving you to face the mountain's final act on your own. The ground beneath your feet is no longer just warm, it's hot. Each step feels like treading on a hearthstone that's been stoked too long, too hard. The air hums with tension, with the promise of something about to break. You glance back once more, but the turtles are truly gone, their path erased by falling ash and shifting rock. And then the mountain wakes. It starts with a sound, a low, hollow roar that rises from deep within the earth. The kind of noise that makes every instinct scream run. The ridge quivers, then shakes outright, the stones beneath you jumping and rattling like dice in some cosmic game you never meant to play. You drop to a crouch, hands pressed to the rock, feeling the pulse of the mountain in your bones. And then, with a force that steals the breath from your lungs, the volcano erupts. The peak bursts open, a fountain of molten rock and ash, and fury shot skyward in a towering plume. The sound is deafening, a roar that fills the world and leaves no room for thought. The sky darkens as ash billows out, blotting the sun, the light, the air itself. You can feel the heat of it even here, a wave of fire that rolls down the slope and across the plain, chasing everything before it. You stagger to your feet, caught between awe and terror. The lava flows faster now, molten rivers spreading in all directions, filling valleys, swallowing forests, reshaping the land as though it were soft clay. The mountain hurls stones the size of houses into the air, raining them down in deadly arcs. You can hear them crash and split, feel the ground jump with each impact. Historians still debate whether early people saw eruptions like this as punishment's omens, or simply the inevitable rage of the world. Some ancient carvings suggest reverence, others fear. What no one debates is the power of it, the raw, unstoppable force that reshapes everything it touches. And here you are, a witness, a speck of life on the edge of creation's furnace. You turn, seeking a way out, a path away from the firestorm, but the land is unrecognizable now. The ridge you climbed has split in places, chasms opening where the rock gave way. The plain below is a sea of moving flame, and above it all the plume rises higher and higher, ash and lightning tangled together in a sky that looks torn apart. The ash begins to fall thicker, heavier, coating you in a layer of gray, stealing the air from your lungs. You tie a strip of cloth over your mouth, a futile shield, but it helps enough to keep you moving. And here's an odd little fact to cling to as you run. Some volcanic eruptions are so powerful they can affect the weather on the far side of the world. Ash and gases thrown high into the atmosphere can cool the planet, dim the sun, and shift the winds for years. You're watching that kind of force now, watching the sky darken, the winds change the world, hold its breath. You stumble over cracked rock sliding down a slope as the ground shudders and heaves. You remember the turtles, their slow steps, their steady retreat. And you wonder if they found safety, if they knew the secret path, if they've outlasted this eruption as they have so many before. You hope they have. You hope they're somewhere beyond the fire, beyond the ash, beyond the reach of this terrible storm. And you keep going one step at a time through a world remade by the mountain's wrath. Ash rains down like snow, but there's no peace in it. Only weight and heat and suffocation. Each flake clings to your skin, your hair, your clothes until you feel like a statue carved from grief and soot. You press on, stumbling through a land unrecognizable, a place where the world's skin has been peeled back to raw stone and fire. And then you see them, what's left of them. Half buried in the ash, their shells blackened, but unbroken, the turtles lie scattered across the slope. Some rest in shallow hollows where they tried to wait out the storm. Others perch atop boulders as if seeking one last breath of clean air. The ash has covered their eyes, their limbs, their slow hearts, but their shells endure scarred, darkened, but intact. A final testament to their long defiance of the mountain's fury. You pause, heart heavy, throat tight, unable to look away. The ground still trembles beneath your feet, the mountain's growl continuing. But in this moment, all you can hear is the soft hiss of ash settling over ancient armor. The turtles outlasted so many storms, so many rivers of fire. But no creature can outrun forever. Even the patient fall when the mountain truly decides to speak. Historians still debate the meaning of such remains when they're found centuries later beneath layers of cooled lava and compressed ash. Were they seen as omens, as sacrifices, as messengers of the gods? Or simply as animals caught by chance, their slow wisdom not quite enough against the fiercest wrath? The question lingers in the minds of scholars, and now in yours too. You kneel beside one of the great shells, brushing away the ash with trembling fingers. The shell is warm, still holding the memory of the fire, the touch of the molten air. Cracks spider across its surface, filled with fine gray dust, but the structure holds. You feel the weight of time in it, the record of survival etched deep, the memory of eruptions past burned into its surface. And here's something curious to consider in modern times. The remains of animals caught in eruptions have taught us as much about ancient ecosystems as they have about the volcanoes themselves. From Pompeii's dogs to prehistoric mastodons entombed by mudflows, their final moments tell stories we could never otherwise hear. These turtles, too, are storytellers now. Their shell's a history book written in scars and ash. You rise, eyes stinging. Not sure if it's from the grit or the sight before you. The mountain rumbles again, sending another cloud of ash rolling down its flanks, and the wind shifts, carrying the bitter scent of sulfur, the heat of molten stone. You step back, casting one last glance at the blackened shells, at the silent witnesses who once walked this land before the fire claimed it. And you move on because you must, because the mountain is not yet done and neither are you. Each step is heavy, the ash deep enough now to slow you to drag at your boots. The land ahead is veiled in haze, the sky torn by streaks of lightning that flash in the churning plume above. And somewhere beyond this hell, you hope the survivors walk on those turtles who read the mountain better, who found the hidden paths, who endure still beyond the reach of flame. The mountain's fury softens little by little. The sky, though still choked with ash, begins to lighten at the edges where the sun fights to break through. The air is heavy, but the worst of the heat ebbs, leaving behind a land remade. Hardened rivers of black glass ridges split and reshape the earth's fresh scars, cooling beneath your feet. You walk in silence now, the weight of the mountain's voice still ringing in your bones, the memory of fire etched behind your eyes. The turtles are gone, vanished, or buried, their fates swallowed by the mountain's final roar. And yet, as you tread the hardened lava fields, you search. Your gaze sweeps the horizon, looking for the familiar rise of a shell. A slow shape moving through the haze, a survivor's silhouette against the ruin. But the land is still silent except for the soft crackle of cooling stone and the faint hiss where steam escapes through hidden vents. The ground beneath your feet is no longer soft with ash, but firm, solid new. You follow the lines of the lava flows, tracing the paths the fire carved, wondering where the turtles might have gone. Could they have found shelter beneath the overhanging cliffs and hidden crevices, in the folds of the land where the lava did not reach? Could they have outpaced the fire once again, as they have for eons? Slow but sure. Historians still debate whether any turtle truly survived the great eruptions that remade this part of the world. Some say the ancient species perished entirely, their memory lingering only in fossilized shells and half-buried stone carvings. Others argue that small populations endured hidden away in places too remote, too inhospitable for even the mountain's wrath to touch. As with so much of the past, the truth is elusive, a whisper lost in the roar of time. You climb one final rise, the cooled lava cracking beneath your boots, and pause at the top to take in the vast changed world. The mountain smolders in the distance, its peak softened by haze, no longer roaring but breathing still. The land stretches out in black waves glittering, where the light strikes the glassy surface broken here and there by the skeletal remains of trees, the outlines of what was. And here's a quiet fact for you. As you stand in this new world, some species of turtles today carry traces of ancient lineages that once walked these volcanic lands, their DNA, a living memory of survival, of adaptation, of endurance beyond the fires of time. The turtles you followed may be gone, but their story lingers in the stone, in the ash, in the faint patterns left behind on the cooling earth. The wind stirs at last, soft and cool, brushing away some of the haze, letting you see farther. But no shells break the horizon, no slow forms move through the fields of stone. And so you stand a lone figure amid the mountain's quiet aftermath, listening to the silence, watching for a sign that may never come. You take a breath slow and deep and turn toward whatever path lies beyond this place. The turtles taught you this much: at least survival isn't always about speed or strength. Sometimes it's about patience, memory, and the quiet wisdom of knowing when to move and when to wait. The mountain stands quiet once more, its fires banked, its anger spent. The land it remade lies beneath a thin, cooling crust, a canvas of black glass and hardened stone where once there was forest and plain. And you, small figure amid the vastness, stand alone beneath a sky no longer filled with ash, searching for shapes that do not come. The turtle's trail, so sure in the beginning, has vanished into the mountain's memory, their slow wisdom carried onward or ended in the fire. You'll never know. The world is silent now, save for the soft crackle of cooling rock, the faint sigh of the wind as it brushes the hardened flows. The air smells of stone and smoke, but it is no longer choking. The mountain's breath has slowed, and so has yours. The path ahead is empty, marked only by your own footprints in the ash that lingers in pockets where the wind hasn't yet reached. The story of the turtles, their ancient march, their patient retreat, their quiet defiance of the fire has become part of this place now. Whether they endured or not, their legacy lies in the hardened flows and scarred cliffs, in the stone slabs where old hands carved their memory, in the questions that will linger long after you are gone. And so you turn one last look at the silent mountain, at the land shaped by fire and time, and you begin to walk slow, steady as the turtles taught you.